Live on Facebook. Good morning, everybody. Yay! Welcome to Tuesday Chats with Ali. We're sorry we're a little bit late this morning, but that's okay. We're here. We're going to have lots and lots of fun. Before we move on, I would love to introduce you to our special guest today. We have Carmel Murphy. Welcome, Carmel. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for having me here. And we're a little bit late because it was my fault because of time differences. But we are here, as you say.
Well, I wasn't gonna say that, but
you weren't going to throw me under the bus.
No, I wasn't going to throw you under the bus. But you're in Perth,
yeah,
and I'm in Adelaide, which is I think 2.5 hours different. So there you go. I think that's pretty.
Yeah. I'm used to the 2 and 3 hours, but Adelaide just threw me.
Yeah. And but that's okay. I'm just glad I'm not the only one who has trouble with time differences. Do it all the time. Just ask the girls, they'll tell you. All right. So we are here, Carmel, to learn all about you today. So I'm just going to firstly ask, tell us all about yourself. Who's Carmel today?
Carmel is Irish, just in case anyone can't hear that. Carmel is originally Irish, but I live in Perth in Western Australia. Carmel is the youngest of 5 daughters from a little seaside town in Ireland in a 2-bedroom house. My poor dad used to pick up the cat and say, even the bloody cat's a girl. My background is hospitality. I started at 16 in my hometown, working in, doing summer seasons and that sort of thing. And then kind of fast forward came to Australia with 2 children and my ex-husband, who was a plumber, in 1989, after just having our second child, who was only 8 months old. So came over here to the land of milk and honey, because at that time in Ireland, it was actually quite prevalent. A lot of people were emigrating and leaving. Unemployment was really high. It was quite hard. So people went to Canada, the US and Australia. So we landed here. And make a long story short of lots of different adventures. I worked in hospitality for many years. I ended up I worked in Toyota factory making cars at one stage. I did the afternoon evening shift while my husband worked as a plumber during the day, because we had no family to look after our kids anymore. But I always kept in hospitality, and I ended up then going up in management and so on and so forth. But there came a time when my late 30s, I divorced, and in my 40s, it was like, is this it? So I started working in recruitment, but it was hospitality recruitment. So I was a state manager there. And I always remember the defining moment of leaving that job was, so we had a 24-hour call line. So we would provide chefs or waiters or whatever you needed. And I was a state manager, so it was my turn to have that phone. I also have my state manager phone. Oh, prior to this job, I had worked in the casino area running the Irish bar, Paddy Hannon's, aptly named. So the people in the casino area, they were one of our biggest clients. They also had my personal phone number. And I always remember we'd had a list of all these people who had said yes, they would work, they were on call. And I was going, hello, 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 hello. Yeah. I was giving them all these people. Then the state manager phone would ring because I couldn't get onto this one. And then my actual personal phone started ringing because I couldn't get onto the other ones. And I remember standing there, I had run out of staff, I had these 3 phones ringing and just burst out crying and went, something's got to change. I can't keep doing this. I was so like, oh my God, it was dreadful. And that's when I went, well, what could I do? I don't know what to do. I like working with people. So I searched around and I found coaching was actually what I found. So I thought, this sounds awesome. If I learn how to be a coach and people are going to pay me for that, people already ask me advice anyway. So I went, yeah. I'm always the person, even as the youngest, it's one of, even my sisters used to come to me. And I went, that'll be cool. So I traveled interstate. I spent copious amounts of money to become a coach and NLP and blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. Because, I was getting great reviews. I even became a mentor for new coaches for the school I had learned in. I became a facilitator and do live coaching demos and everything for them. But the truth was, all of this stuff, and, I had a few clients and I was getting great reviews, but the truth was nobody could actually see me. So I had a very expensive hobby is probably
yeah, no, yeah, I understand that.
I went back and forward to work, and then I try again, and then I do this, and blah, blah, blah. Until I learned that, hang on, if I can't market myself or sell myself or whatever language you want to put on it, then I don't have a business. I just have that hobby. And the crux of it kind of came about 5.5 years ago when my sister was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I was actually working for a restaurant chain that I traveled most of Australia. I looked after 3 states. And I was in South Australia, funnily enough, when I got the call when she said the results she had got. And I remember in that second going, I will not be in another state when somebody rings me to tell me my sister has passed away. I will not. So I left that job shortly after that. And then I took some casual work, I took some stuff, because to be honest, my head wasn't kind of in anything. She had 15 months of illness and treatments and all that. And so very grateful that I was able to be there and travel that with her. And then she passed away 4.5 years ago. And after that, it was like, and you know, I'll try not to swear, but it was like, what the F am I doing? What the F am I doing? Yeah, it's like, I don't care anymore what people think of me, or if somebody says, oh, Carmel, you're being a bit loud, or, oh, Carmel, why are you doing your own business anyway? Why don't you do it? It's like, shit, you know what? We're not getting a trophy at the end of this life. And there was my sister, who, by the way, was the age I am now.
Wow, there you go.
She was exactly at the age and this moment that I'm sitting in right now. My sister already knew she was going to die.
Wow.
And I just kind of went, nah, that's not happening. So that's when I went full into, well, how do I do this? I got a mentor, and I went, well, fucking tell me how to do it. And we've done a course together and that sort of thing. It was like, okay. And I looked around and went, bums on seats. I need to get bums on seats. Who's that? Francesca Moy. Right, teach me all you know. And that's kind of the trajectory I've gone on now. Yeah. So now I teach other people, because then people keep saying, how come everyone's seeing you? And now I teach other people how to get the right message, the right person at the right time.
And you know what I love? I've just realised we've got Ali Sugar, the motivation mum, and we've got Carmel Murphy, the communication queen. That's pretty cool. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What a story, Carmel. It's amazing how you've gone into doing the coaching that you're doing. That's incredible. Wow. So tell us then, what's maybe one of the proudest moments that you've had in your life, be it business or personal, whatever it is?
Well, other than having my 3 children, gosh, that's a challenging one. My 3 children have to be the proudest moments of my life. And I was a very young mom, you know, not necessarily by design, but obviously by some other design by me. But even as a young mom, I remember being really, really proud of this beautiful daughter of mine, who is now 38.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have to say that it has to be my 3 kids. I don't think anything could top that.
Yeah, I get that. I think most mums will answer that question the same way.
Yeah.
I get asked that question. Yeah, I just can't go past my kids. I get it.
Yeah. So sometimes it's funny. People ask me questions in, you know, these kind of interviews, and I giggle because sometimes I forget to say I have kids. They don't ask me my proudest moments. They ask me something else, and I go, oh, I never mentioned my kids. Oh my God. And my kids are all grown up now. As you can tell, my youngest was actually 30 this month. So yeah, done dusted.
Nice. Yeah, no, I get you. My kids are in their mid-20s, so I feel you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. So the next question is, we don't refer to things as mistakes in this group because it's a word that's not in my vocabulary. So what is one of the biggest learning experiences that you've had?
Gosh, that's a great one. And I know you sent me questions, but I forgot to look at them.
That's right. This is
what is the biggest... Say that again. Sorry, my brain just went.
Right. So, what's the biggest learning experience that you've had?
Through me doing something that otherwise other people would call a mistake.
Yeah.
The biggest learning and probably the biggest waste of time has been that internal dialogue. I actually did Facebook Live on it today. It's that, you know, the ego, in my belief, gets a bad rap. That's kind of it. The ego is, if you look at it, we have different selves. We have the villain, the victim, we have the pusher, we have the blah, blah, blah. So the ego is just one of those selves. The thing is, it's like the CEO of all the other selves. So it brings in procrastination to keep you safe. It brings in whatever else to keep you safe. Because its main job, they all have a job description, if you like, in a KPI, is to keep you safe.
Yeah.
So getting stuck in an unresourceful ego state has probably been the biggest thing. And you don't realize you're in it quite often. Until you hear yourself say, I don't feel right, I don't, you know, it's actually ego talking.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was ever, again, a mistake. The biggest awareness I've got is being able to look at that and go, hang on, that's not true. That's just something I've told myself because it's kept myself safe for all these years. And we don't realize that we do that because, again, the ego is so good at keeping you safe that we do whatever we need to as children to keep ourselves safe, to not be ostracized from the tribe, because that's, you know, quite often our biggest fear.
And it's a real awakening when you get to that point, isn't it? When you just go, and all of a sudden, so I hear you, because all of a sudden that you hear yourself, you go, oh, am I really saying that about myself? And you know, like you say, it's I, and then it's like, oh wow, did I just say that again?
Yeah. So, and for the amount of time that we are aware that we say that, Ali, we actually say it like hundreds of times. So if you can imagine anyone that has children, getting a little child and going, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you can't do it over and over and over and over and over again before they even reach the age of 7, which is their, you know, imprint years. Can you imagine just the person that you would get when they're 7 or 8 years of age going, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. No, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we do to ourselves. Yeah, that's what we do.
It is. And actually, I'll get back. This is all about you, but you know, that's something I used to do quite often, was tell myself that I'm stupid all the time. And it's something that I talk about quite frequently, is that, you know, how I've overcome the fact that I've thought I was stupid. Anyway, but we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you today.
But that's a common one. One of my big ones was, in business, I'm not techie. Like, I literally used to say it out loud. Yeah. I said, I'm not techie. I can't do that. I need somebody to help me. I can't do it on my own. I'm not techie. I'm not techie. And now people laugh at me and go, you're not what?
And look at now.
I'm not overly techie, but by God, I know enough, because I changed that belief to not being techie to being, I know if I learn it, that I can do anything.
Right.
Yeah. And it's only a slight shift, instead of, you know, quite often we try and do the polar opposites, and that's where there's this big drag. And it's like, well, if somebody can do it, then I know I can, if I get, you know, a dedicated program of learning and somebody to teach me that's already done it. Because don't get me to read all the bloody, you know, I don't read all the information. Sit with me and physically show me how to do it. Yep. Man, that's it. I'm done. I've got it. So I'm a very experimental and very kinesthetic learner.
Yeah, me too.
But once I do it, I'll do it. Yeah.
And once you've learned it, it's like, oh, good, it wasn't that hard in the first place. Amazing.
I have yet to find anything that was as hard as I had thought it was once I actually broke it down and learned it.
There you go, people. There you go. That's an important tip to take away too. So tell us, Carmel, now, Women Rising Above is all about women coming back and putting themselves first. And, you know, rising above is certain situations in life that we might have risen, you know, might have had to overcome or rise above, as it says. So is there a specific time in your life when you've had to maybe do that?
Where I've had to rise above.
Rise above a situation. So, you know, overcome something.
Yeah, look, it probably will go back to my sister again, if I'm totally honest, because it's been the biggest, most significant, and not just because, so my sister lived in Perth here with me, so, you know, we were, she was just up the road. But when she, so while she was ill, so it was kind of a block of time, more than just one thing. So while she was ill, she had been diagnosed. The first thing she did was she wanted to go to Ireland to say goodbye to my parents. So we had this big palaver to get her to Ireland because she had lung cancer. So there was a lot of hoops to go through. Yeah. So we did that. And as you can imagine, my elderly parents, it was quite an emotional time. came back. Then when we came back, before she passed, we got a scare that my mom was dying. So we all rushed to Ireland except for my sister because she was too ill. Came back, my mom was kind of okay. I've always been the comedian in the family. So, you know, even in the angst of all this pain and everything, I can throw stuff in and people go, that's inappropriate, but it's kind of really funny at the same time. So, you know, my poor mom at this stage, almost on her deathbed, and this may sound weird, but if you knew our family, and, you know, she's gone, and she goes, my mom was a bit, you know, older fashioned, and through her life experiences was quite, it's all about me. And she was like, oh, Carmel, why won't God take me? And I'm gone, I think you're talking to the wrong fella.
Well.
Anyway, but she didn't pass away then. We came back, and then my sister passed away in the December. And my dad, at this stage, my mom was in a nursing home. My mom was fine mentally, but physically not so much. And my dad was at home on his own because they had lived in the same house. They'd been married for 65 years. They'd lived in the same house. So my dad was really, he used to get up in the middle of the night and help my mom. This person was gone out of his environment. So he kept thinking. So he kept ringing me and he'd say, so we had my sister cremated. He kept saying, why did they cremate her? He couldn't, you know, an Irish Catholic, it wasn't in his, you know. So it really preoccupied him. And within 6 weeks of my sister's death, we got a phone call that our dad was on his last legs. Oh, so we rushed, my sister from Melbourne and we always met in the middle and then we'd go on. So we rushed, we got home to my dad. My dad has always hated hospitals, always. So he was in hospital, but he was angry. He was like, Carmel, get me out of here. And I was going, Dad, give me 24 hours. You know, he said, 24 hours, me arse, me clothes are in the cupboard, get me out of here. And we went and we talked to the nurses and they said, look, his kidneys and everything are given out. He wouldn't even make it home in the ambulance. Because in my head, I had the Superman cape and I was going to get palliative care. I was going to get him home and get my dad comfortable, blah, blah, blah. We left the hospital and went to see my mom in the nursing home. And she went, your dad must be really sick if you guys are here. But she didn't want to see him because we knew it wasn't going to last. She didn't want to see him. By the time we went back to the hospital, they already had my dad on morphine and a mask and he was semi-conscious. So we sat there all night with him. And in delirium is the only way I can describe it. Because we were laughing and stupid as if we were sitting in the lounge room with my dad and normal, you know, and at one stage, my sister will probably kill me for saying this, but at one stage, my sister got up and walked across the floor and she farted as she walked across the floor. And I was like going, oh my God, Daddy, will I tell her to get out? She's making a show of us. And to this day, my dad, semi-conscious and everything with the mask, I'm sure he just moved his head just a little bit because they say your hearing is the last thing to go. And that was the kind of humor that was in it, you know. So he passed away and obviously my mom was distraught. She hadn't gone to see him. And by the time she decided the next morning, well, maybe I will, he was already passed. Yeah. And So he got buried on my parents' wedding anniversary, which was 15th of February. Goodness. And so then later that year, so that was February. So in the November of that year my mom was 90. So myself and my sister traipsed back again. And when I think about it, we surprised my mother. We might as well have given her a heart attack, but anyway. For her 90th birthday. And I remember saying to my sister before, she says, oh God, will we come back again? And I said, you know what? I just have a feeling if we don't, we'll regret it. Mm-hmm. So we went back, had a great time, 90th birthday, yada, yada. And that was in the November, came back home. And in the February, we got a phone call that my mum had passed away. Yeah. And she got buried on my parents' wedding anniversary, 12 months to the day after my dad.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I was like,
that's so, a lot of emotion in that.
Yeah. Wow. And for all of that, again, the youngest, but you know, probably the most outspoken. So I had to do the eulogies for everyone. Now, the reason I did the eulogy for my sister was there was such high emotion with my brother-in-law and my nephews. And I don't know if it's from hospitality. I always had the power to disassociate and kind of go, right, well, what needs to be done? It's an effectiveness or whatever. And I remember saying to them, they were trying to gather the information to give to the person who, the celebrant. And they were, you know, they couldn't say which information to give her and which not. And I said, what about this? What about it? So in the end, they said, can you just do it? And I did. And like, all I could do was do a eulogy from a sister's perspective, from a sister's love. And that's what I did. And then my other, I always remember going to the church with my dad. So you go in Ireland, you go kind of the night before for a mass, and then blah, blah, blah. My dad used to always say, don't leave me in the church overnight. I'm not paying for bread and breakfast, and they don't even give me breakfast in the morning. That's what I mean. So you have to get the humor. But I remember saying to one of my sisters, so would you not do the prayers to the faithful or something, you know, like that? And she just went, see that coffin? I'd rather be in there than to get up there and say something. And I was
wow.
Okay. So it wasn't because I'm going, Carmel is the speaker. It's like, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to. So when you talk about rising above, it was very much the disassociating enough that and in Ireland, like the church was full for my dad's funeral, and they're all giving me a round of applause. I'm going, but that's what they do. That's quite normal. So I would call that as being my biggest ability of being able to rise above and do what needed to be done.
Absolutely.
Regardless of anything else. Yeah.
That's a lot of emotion in such a short span of time. And can I just tell you, when you said about, you know, your sister farting, I'm not going to tell it today, but I have the funniest story about someone farting at a funeral.
Yeah.
It's just, I'll tell you that another day later.
We were delirious. We had both traveled from Australia. We hadn't slept anything, but she was literally just, it was just the funniest thing.
Oh dear. Well, that's amazing. So tell us then, here's a good question for you. So if you could go back and speak to a younger Carmel and you get to choose when that would be, what would you tell yourself?
I love these questions. If I could go back, gosh, there's so much going through my head as you say that, because I'm kind of going, do I go pre this age because there was some, you know, trauma and abuse in my childhood, or do I go after it, or do I, what would I tell myself? Because I've done a lot of this work through NLP procedures that I've actually gone back to a time. Gosh, go back to a time. I would say it'd probably be about the 13, 14, because that was the time that this situation had ended abruptly. And I was very lost and couldn't tell anyone why I was lost. And because the perpetrator, I suppose for another word, had passed away, had been killed in a car accident. Right. So everyone around me was grieving this person, and I was somewhat grieving. It was a very, when I think back on it now, I talk about it openly, it doesn't bother me, but I had a lot of shame and guilt around being in a trauma situation where I didn't see it as trauma.
I get that. Yeah.
I felt loved. I felt blah, blah, blah. I was the youngest of 5 girls. Somebody paid me attention. So at that time, but I couldn't tell anyone that I was grieving.
Right. Yeah.
Because this person had died. I was just another child there, whatever. But I couldn't say to anyone, actually, I had a really special relationship with this person. I'm hurting, blah, blah. I couldn't have orated that anyway, even if I tried. So I'd probably go back to that person and really sit down with her and talk to her, which I quite often do things like that in meditation anyway, and tell her that it would be okay.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. That's lovely.
Thank you.
So we're going to go the opposite direction now. We're going to look forward to 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So what will Carmel be doing? Tell us what you're looking forward to in 10 years' time.
You know what? Go back to my parents again. I remember as the later years when I started, going back to visit my parents, again, living in the same house. We had been born in the same house, like my mom had given birth at home. And as you walk in the hallway, then there was this sitting room, as we call it in Ireland. And we used to all gather there for meals and whatever. But as they got older, there became 2 recliners and a TV.
Of course.
And
yes.
I used to laugh and go, for Jesus' sake, you're sitting in God's waiting room, like, you know, because it was like society told them that they were a certain age and that they should stop. So my parents had come to Australia many years ago when I lived in Melbourne, but they never came back. Oh, we're getting too old. Oh, the doctor says we shouldn't travel. Oh, we're not well, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think in society as a whole, there's a normalcy. I don't know if that's a word I just made up.
I think it is.
It's kind of, you get to a certain age that, oh, you're too old, don't do this, don't do that. So my intention is always, like I've always said, I'll go into my freaking grave on the side of a motorbike or something, like, you know, I don't intend stopping. And some of my marketing now is even like, I'm 57, I'm a grandmother. It's like, if a gray-haired 57-year-old grandmother can do it, so can you. So you're asking me that, I'm thinking in 10 years, I'll just be a gray-haired 67-year-old grandma still doing some of this stuff. Wow. I mean, our business is online and it's building even more. So it'll be more online, it'll be more automated. I'll be just doing whatever bloody hell I want and showing up and helping other people. I don't think I'm going to be, you know, people have an illusion of, oh, I want to do this so I can have all this free time. Well, have the free time now, create it in a way that you, like, I love what I'm doing. And there are times that it feels like work. There are times, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a big paperwork admin person. But in the whole, it doesn't feel like work. I'm sitting in my own house, in my lounge room. And I can take the computer and I can pop somewhere else and still do this call with you. So by and large, I've already started to create that. Awesome. So I think in 10 years' time, it'll just be a bigger, better version of that. I don't think I'll be sitting around stopping, because what the hell?
I can't see you stopping. You've got too much energy to stop in 10 years' time. You're just flying by. I love
it. Some people have got a shock when they've heard this 57-year-old grey-haired granny, and then they see me and go, oh, that wasn't what I was expecting. I was like, yeah.
And those of us who know you love you exactly the way you are, Carmel.
Thank you.
Never change. So tell us, what's one piece of advice that you would have to give the ladies in this group?
Well, are they in business or not?
We have ladies from everywhere. Some are in business, some aren't.
Well, the one thing that suits everyone is don't ever let anyone else tell you no.
Oh, I love that. Yes, that's good. Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. Say it again.
Don't ever let anyone else tell you no.
Love it. Perfect. Absolutely perfect, Carmel. So just to end today's interview, we do have a lot. See, no one's perfect. We do have a promo day in the group. Today is promotion day. So I offer business people, when they come on Tuesday Chats, to tell us, you know, about your business. Do you have something that you'd like to promote for us, and links that you'd like to share?
Sure. So we had just a while ago, we ran a webinar, and it was how to make shut up and take my money videos.
I love that.
So I'm happy to share the recording of that webinar.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah. And it was with myself and my colleague, Sarah. So Sarah Lucy Rose is a young copywriter who I work extensively with. And she's a lot more techie than I am. Yeah. So the two of us are on this call going through how to make the shut up and take my money videos, because like video is 95% of what you see in video is retained compared to images and writing alone. And I mean, according to Facebook, by next year, it's going to be all video, just, you know, in Facebook itself. YouTube, I mean, you can monetize the channel, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of different things. So it gives you some tips and tricks on, you know, what you need to have in a video and the points you need to be getting, especially if there's something that is, if you're in business, it's a direct response video that you want them to take action.
Yeah.
So it tells you an overview of that. So I'm happy to share that with anyone.
That would be absolutely incredible. I'm just looking over here because I can see my beautiful assistant Alexis has put she's put your Facebook page in there, which is great. So if you wouldn't mind just adding the link to that video in, because I'm sure that a lot of our ladies would love to go and watch that, particularly those, we've got a lot of business ladies in the group. So that'd be awesome, Carmel.
Yeah. Now, am I putting that in Facebook under the comments?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Just making sure I wasn't putting it in the chat box here.
No, in Facebook under the comments after the interview. Well, thank you so much, Carmel. Honestly, I have learned so much about you today. I love doing interviews because I just learned so much about all I call you my girls, all my girls.
I'm a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grey-haired 57-year-old granny girl.
Yeah. And I feel like a girl. That's the thing. Until you walk past a mirror, you go, "Oh, who's that?" That's me. Oops, how did that happen?
No, and I absolutely love it. And listening to a lot of what you've said today, it's almost like we're the same person with different accents and 10 years age difference.
There you go. Yeah.
That's
what I say to a lot of the people that I talk to in the States. They're quite often 16 hours behind us or something. I'm going, you can rest easy. Tomorrow's looked after. So the same for you. You can rest easy. You can see what the next 10 years look like.
Yes, I love it. Hey, if I look as good as you in 10 years' time, I'm great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carmel. It's been really good to speak to you today. And thank you, lovely ladies. I can see there's a few of you been watching today. I just want to end today by letting you know, now, as you know, we do have Tuesday chats each day at 9:30 each week at 9:30 Adelaide time on Tuesdays. We actually have spots available for anyone who'd like to come on. We have spots available in March and April. So let us know. This is not just open to business ladies. It is open to anyone in the group. If you might like to come on and tell us your story, or just, tell us all about yourself. It's all about, communication with the communication queen and connection. So feel free to private message me or just pop a comment below and we will be in touch with you. And once again, Carmel, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an absolute
pleasure. My pleasure.
See you next week, ladies.